Havenwood, a sleepy coastal town in Northern California, was the kind of place where everyone knew each other's name. Nestled between jagged cliffs and a restless Pacific Ocean, its charm lay in its isolation. The town's single main street was lined with weathered storefronts, a diner that served greasy burgers, and a lighthouse that hadn't worked in decades. To outsiders, Havenwood was a postcard of small-town Americana. To its residents, it was a sanctuary, until the summer of 2024, when the discovery of a body shattered its fragile peace. It was July 17th, a humid morning with the sky bruised by gathering storm clouds. Clara Hensley, a 62-year-old retiree, was walking her aging golden retriever, Rusty, along the coastal trail that wound through the dunes. The trail was a favorite among locals, offering sweeping views of the ocean and a quiet escape from the world. Clara hummed softly, her sneakers crunching on the sandy path. When Rusty froze, his ears perked. He let out a low growl, his gaze fixed on a cluster of tall grasses near the cliff's edge. "Rusty, what's gotten into you?" Clara muttered, tugging his leash. But the dog wouldn't budge. She followed his stare, squinting through the morning haze. At first, she thought it was a pile of driftwood or seaweed tangled in the grass. Then she saw it, a pale hand, unnaturally still, protruding from the undergrowth. Her breath caught. Dropping the leash, she stumbled forward, her heart hammering. The grasses parted to reveal a young woman, her body crumpled like a discarded doll. Her face was bruised, her lips parted in a silent scream. A single shoe, a scuffed white sneaker, lay a few feet away, as if flung in a struggle. Clara's scream echoed across the dunes. She fumbled for her phone, her hands shaking as she dialed 911. Within minutes, Havenwood's small police force descended on the scene, their sirens cutting through the town's usual quiet. The woman had no wallet, no phone, no identification, just a silver bracelet etched with the initials LM. Her clothes, a ripped t-shirt and jeans, were stained with blood and dirt. The officers cordoned off the area, their faces grim. For a town that hadn't seen a murder in over 30 years, the sight was unthinkable. The body was transported to the county coroner's office, a sterile building an hour's drive from Havenwood. Dr. Evelyn Torres, a seasoned medical examiner, worked late to the night, her gloved hands moving with precision. The woman was in her late 20s, petite, with chestnut hair matted with blood. Her injuries told a brutal story: multiple skull fractures, a broken collarbone, and deep lacerations across her arms and torso. Defensive wounds on her hands suggested she'd fought back. Most disturbing were the burn marks, small circular wounds on her thighs, consistent with a cigarette or a heated object. Toxicology reports later revealed traces of sedatives in her system, enough to disorient but not kill. The police, led by Chief Daniel Warwick, a stoic man nearing retirement, faced a daunting task. Havenwood's police department was equipped for minor disputes, not homicides. Warwick, who'd spent his career issuing speeding tickets and breaking up bar fights, felt the weight of the case like a stone in his chest. The woman's identity was their first hurdle. Fingerprints yielded no matches in any database. Dental records were useless without a name. The bracelet's initials, LM, were their only clue. Days passed with no breakthroughs. The town buzzed with rumors. Some whispered about a drifter passing through, others about a local with a hidden dark side. At the Havenwood diner, regulars sipped coffee and speculated over plates of pancakes. Bet she was running from something, said Tom Grayson, a fisherman with a weathered face. Nobody ends up like that by accident. On July 22nd, a tip came from an unexpected source. Sarah Milford, a librarian at Havenwood's tiny public library, had been watching the news when she recognized a sketch of the victim released by the police. She called the station, her voice trembling. "I think I know her," she said. "Her name's Lila Monroe. She came into the library a few months ago, asking about local history books. Said she was new in town." Sarah's tip led Warwick to a small rental cottage on the outskirts of Havenwood, where Lila had lived. The cottage was a squat, cedar-shingled building surrounded by wildflowers. Inside, it was sparsely furnished. A sagging couch, a kitchen table, and a single bed with a faded quilt. A stack of library books sat on the nightstand, their pages dog-eared. A photo tucked into the frame of a mirror showed Lila smiling beside an older woman, likely her mother, Warwick guessed. The cottage offered few answers, but it confirmed Lila's identity. She was 28, a freelance graphic designer who'd moved to Havenwood in March, seeking a fresh start after a messy breakup in Seattle. Lila Monroe wasn't a stranger to hardship. Born in Tacoma, Washington, she'd grown up in a working-class family, the only child of a single mother, Diane, who worked double shifts as a nurse. Lila was bright and creative, with a knack for art that earned her a scholarship to a design school. But her personal life was less steady. Friends described her as warm but guarded, someone who loved deeply but struggled to trust. Her last relationship, with a man named Ethan Carver, had ended in chaos. Ethan, a charismatic but volatile musician, had a temper that left Lila shaken. When she left him, she cut ties with most of her old life, moving to Havenwood to rebuild. In Havenwood, Lila kept to herself, working remotely and taking long walks along the coast. She frequented the library and the diner, where she'd sketch in a notebook while sipping tea. But she wasn't entirely alone. Neighbors recalled seeing her with a man, a tall, broad-shouldered figure with dark hair and a charming smile. He'd visit her cottage late at night, sometimes staying until dawn. No one knew his name, but his presence was enough to spark curiosity. Warwick's team canvassed the town, chasing leads. They learned Lila had been seen at the Rusty Anchor, a dive bar on the edge of Havenwood, with the same man. The bartender, a gruff woman named Maureen, remembered them. "She seemed nervous," Maureen said, wiping down the counter. "Kept looking over her shoulder like she was expecting trouble. The guy, though, he was smooth. Bought rounds for everyone, tipped well. Didn't catch his name, but he drove a black pickup." The black pickup became a focal point. Warwick's team scoured traffic camera footage, a challenge in a town with only 2 cameras. A grainy image from July 15th showed a black Ford F-150 parked near the coastal trail, just hours before Lila's estimated time of death. The license plate was obscured, but it was a start. The investigation took a turn when a witness came forward. Jacob Reese, a gas station clerk, recognized the police sketch of the man seen with Lila. "That's Nate Caldwell," he said, leaning across the counter. "He's a contractor, does odd jobs around town. Lives in a trailer out by the old quarry." Nate Caldwell was 34, a Havenwood native with a reputation for charm and a short fuse. He'd grown up in a broken home, bouncing between foster care and his mother's cramped apartment. As an adult, he'd carved out a living fixing roofs and building decks, his easy smile masking a history of bar fights and petty theft. Warwick's team found him at his trailer, a rusted Airstream surrounded by empty beer cans. Nate was cooperative but cagey, his blue eyes darting as he answered questions. "Yeah, I knew Lila," he admitted, leaning against the trailer's doorframe. "We met at the bar a few months back, hit it off, went out a few times. Nothing serious. Last I saw her was maybe a week ago." When pressed about the pickup, Nate's demeanor shifted. "Lots of guys drive trucks around here," he said, his voice tight. "Mine's in the shop. Been there 2 weeks." A call to the local mechanic confirmed Nate's story, but Warwick wasn't convinced. Something about Nate's story felt rehearsed, too polished. A search of the trailer yielded nothing. No blood, no weapons, no sign of Lila. But Warwick's gut told him Nate was hiding something. They dug deeper, pulling Nate's phone records. A series of late-night calls to an unregistered number stood out, all made in the days leading up to Lila's death. The number was a dead end, but it raised questions. Who was Nate talking to, and why? While Nate remained a suspect, another figure emerged. Emily Vaughn, a 32-year-old yoga instructor, had moved to Havenwood a year earlier, renting a loft above the town's only gym. Emily was striking, tall with sharp cheekbones and a cascade of blonde hair. She taught classes to a small but devoted group of locals, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos of the investigation. But Emily had a connection to both Lila and Nate. A regular at the Rusty Anchor, Emily had been seen arguing with Lila in the bar's parking lot a week before the murder. Witnesses described the exchange as heated, with Emily jabbing a finger at Lila before storming off. When Warwick questioned her, Emily was composed, her voice steady. "Lila and I weren't friends," she said, sitting cross-legged in her loft. "We ran into each other at the bar, and yeah, we argued. She was upset because she thought I was too friendly with Nate. I told her she was overreacting. That was it." Emily admitted to knowing Nate, describing him as a casual acquaintance. But her story unraveled when Warwick's team found a photo on her phone, sent to her by an unknown number. It showed Lila and Nate kissing outside her cottage, time-stamped 2 days before the murder. Emily claimed she'd received it anonymously, but her composure cracked when pressed. "I didn't want trouble," she whispered. "I just wanted her to back off." The photo suggested a love triangle, one that placed Emily and Nate at the center. Warwick's team theorized that Emily, jealous of Lila's relationship with Nate, might have played a role in her death. But Emily had an alibi. She'd been teaching a yoga class the night Lila died, confirmed by a dozen students. Still, her connection to Nate kept her on the radar. The investigation stalled, the town's patience wearing thin. Protests erupted outside the police station, with residents demanding answers. Clara Hensley, the woman who'd found Lila's body, became an unlikely spokesperson, her tearful pleas for justice broadcast on local news. Warwick, under pressure, doubled down on Nate. A second search of Nate's trailer uncovered a hidden compartment under the floorboards. Inside was a burner phone, its call log matching the unregistered number from Nate's records. The phone contained a single text sent the night of Lila's death. "It's done. Meet me at the trail." The message was unsigned, but its implications were chilling. Nate was brought in for questioning. Under pressure, he cracked. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," he sobbed, his hands trembling. He claimed Emily had been obsessed with him, manipulating him into confronting Lila. According to Nate, Emily had drugged Lila during a night of drinking at the bar, luring her to the coastal trail under the pretense of talking things out. Nate admitted to being there, but insisted Emily delivered the fatal blows, using a tire iron from his truck. He'd helped dispose of the body, he said, because Emily threatened to frame him. Emily, arrested the same day, told a different story. She admitted to sending the text but claimed Nate was the aggressor. He was unhinged, she said, her voice shaking. He loved Lila, but he couldn't handle her pulling away. When she tried to end things, he snapped. I only helped clean up because I was scared he'd come for me next. Forensic evidence painted a clearer picture. DNA from both Nate and Emily was found on Lila's bracelet, suggesting they'd both handled it. Tire tracks near the trail matched Nate's truck, despite his claim it was in the shop. The tire iron, recovered from a dumpster behind the gym, bore traces of Lila's blood and Nate's fingerprints. Emily's DNA was found on a cigarette butt near the scene, linking her to the burn marks on Lila's body. The trial, held in the spring of 2025, gripped Havenwood. The courtroom, a small brick building on Main Street, was packed with reporters and locals. Nate and Emily, tried together, sat stone-faced as prosecutors laid out the case. The motive, they argued, was a toxic mix of jealousy and obsession. Lila, caught between two predators, had become their target. Witnesses painted a damning picture. Maureen, the bartender, testified about Nate's controlling behavior toward Lila. Sarah Milford, the librarian, recounted Lila's fear in the weeks before her death. Clara Hensley's emotional testimony brought jurors to tears. The most damning evidence was the tire iron, its blood-streaked surface tying Nate directly to the crime. Nate's defense leaned on his claim of manipulation, portraying Emily as the mastermind. Emily's attorney argued she was a bystander, coerced by Nate's violence, but the jury, after 3 days of deliberation, rejected both narratives. On April 10, 2025, Nate Caldwell was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. Emily Vaughn, found guilty as an accomplice, received 20 years. Havenwood never recovered its innocence. The dunes, once a place of solace, became a grim reminder of Lila's fate. The rusty anchor closed, its owner unable to shake the stigma. Clara Hensley moved away, unable to walk the coastal trail without seeing Lila's face. Chief Warwick retired, his final case a bittersweet victory. Lila's mother, Diane, visited Havenwood a month after the trial. She stood at the cliff's edge, clutching the silver bracelet etched with her daughter's initials. She just wanted a quiet life, Diane whispered, tears falling into the wind. She scattered Lila's ashes into the ocean, a final farewell to a daughter lost to a town that couldn't protect her. The case left a scar on Havenwood, a reminder that even sanctuaries can hide darkness. For those who knew Lila, her memory lingered, not as a victim, but as a woman who sought peace and found only betrayal.